All right, this is a special psychic profiler series. This is where I do the case files, and I do the potpourri, which means that we can talk about any case file you want. It's not just about one. It could be Nancy Guthrie. It could be Brian Kohberger. It could be Idaho 4. It could be just Luigi Mangione. I mean, it could be anything. So, or any case file that's not really well known, but somebody wants some help to understand what's going on. So, this is days before the August eclipse, which is on the 12th. And this thing is going to be a game changer, like I said before. Actually, it's more of a, you're rooting yourself, you're grounding yourself in this eclipse is what I'm picking up. So the case file should have some movement if it's what I'm seeing. The case files that are currently out there that have no movement, that there doesn't seem to be anything. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen this week. So if you have questions for me about any case, I don't care what it is, as long as it's reasonable. Okay. So let me just see if there's anything coming up while I'm waiting for you guys to get in here. And if you have a question about a case, go ahead and submit your request to speak. I'll put you on. We'll see what we can see. All right. Let me see what is happening with Nancy Guthrie. Let me just look at that for a second, because that's been a case a lot of people on YouTube are asking about. So let me just see if there's anything new that's coming up about Nancy Guthrie. Okay. All right. Nancy Guthrie. Well, I think there's some problems at the local level with the federal government weighing in on this situation, saying, hey, clean up your own mess, like make this complete, make this go away, and do your job and make this happen soon, because we're getting too many calls, too many inquiries about this case, and you guys need to actually get on it. All right, so let's get Eureka in here. Eureka. I added. Did you turn your mic on? Eureka. I added you to the podcast. Anyway, speak when you're on here. Let me see what else is going on with the Nancy Guthrie investigation, and whether or not we're even going to see an end to this whole thing. The eclipse week is going to be telling for a lot of cases. Let me see if this is it. And Eureka, I added you to this podcast. So if you need to send another request, you need to turn your mic on and have a mic be authorized on your device. All right. Let me take a look at this with Nancy Guthrie. Well, it's almost, it's like I talked about this. This is kind of at the local level. And I'm getting that there's definitely like a stonewalling happening here. Um, it looks like they are definitely just, putting people off, putting requests off. It looks like they don't even want to do any work on this. And they're tired of addressing the media and what's going on and why they're not doing their jobs. I think they're just turning around in circles, chasing their tails. I think they don't have any idea what's going on with this case. And the local level is being hidden from anything that's actually happening. That's what I get with Nancy Guthrie. Let me look at Savannah with that. Savannah Guthrie, do you know what's happening? Do you know where your mother is? Where your mother's body is? What happened in this case? Well, I'm getting that she knows some things, but not all things. She's aware of certain things that have happened. Savannah Guthrie is aware of certain things that have happened here. She's afraid to make the wrong move in case, I mean, she's being told not to obstruct the investigation. She's also being told by the network, do not do anything. Just, be the daughter. Don't try to do this investigation on your own. But she knows something. She knows a few things. So I have to say, it does look like Savannah is in the know about certain things. Eureka, I added you again. Are you there? Eureka, you need to turn on your mic, hon. And if you can't speak, I need to keep going. Eureka. Okay, anyway, people need to figure out how to work this app. I can't, I'm trying here. If you do get a request in here, you need to turn your microphone on and allow access to your microphone. Apparently that's how it works. She will try to come back in again. All right, so anyway, I am seeing certain things here with timing. Okay, timing with Nancy Guthrie. What are we looking at as far as timing with this case? How long will it take before we have movement? Real movement, real evidence coming forth, real situations happening, and not just this, bait and switch thing. Let me see. How long? What is our time frame? Okay. Well, it looks like some sort of a deal will be on the table. A deal. Why do they need to make a deal? This is a murder case. But it looks like a deal is on the table because the evidence is so overwhelming that a deal needs to be made. I'm having something brought to light here, and I just want to say it on this podcast, which has nothing to do with case files, but it has to do with the election that happened. And somebody actually came on my YouTube and said, they were going through old YouTube, podcasts that I had done, and it was on the election, and they were going after Kamala Harris and why did I see her, and am I not embarrassed that I said she would win? First of all, she did win, and her votes were actually in there. So I'm not going to move off of that psychically because that's what I saw. and whether or not Donald Trump had anything to do with sort of fixing that, if Elon Musk had anything to do with fixing that. It's not for me to say, but I did see who won. And, I mean, elections are elections, and certain chess pieces get moved across the board. And I'm not even registered to vote, so I have no skin in this game, guys. I don't care. I mean, I really don't, as long as they're taking care of the country. I don't care about Republican. I don't care about Democrat. I care about whether somebody does what they say they're going to do and there's follow through. So somebody had mentioned that. I erased their comment because it was sort of mean and mean spirited, and I erased it. But I'm going to address it right here. And I'm going to tell you that when I see things, it's because there's some sort of factual evidence showing itself to me, and that's what I do. I don't sit here saying, "Oh, well, I agree with that." Again, this isn't about what I personally want. It's about what I'm able to see at that particular time. So, in this case, the reason I mentioned that story is that in this case, there are certain elements of government, uh, let's just say it's government taking over the case, trying to conceal that certain things weren't handled properly within the investigation itself. And I've worked many investigations. So, am I qualified? Yes, I am. I'm qualified to see this. Um, I've worked hundreds of investigations, some of them very high profile. So, all I have to say is that this sometimes happens when they don't know it's going to be a murder case. They don't know. And I think evidence just got tainted early on. They thought that Nancy Guthrie was wandering off, and it was going to be one of those deals in Arizona, in Tucson. They were going to have Nancy walk back in, and people were just relaxed about it when it first happened. Nobody was panicking except for maybe the family, and they were waiting. They were waiting to see if this was one of those times where it was just, a person that is of a certain age, and she wanders off and she comes back, or somebody finds her and there's a phone call. So again, we're looking at, people are complacent. People make assumptions about certain things. And then a lot of valuable time is lost in the investigation because they screwed up. Evidence is collected improperly or tainted because somebody walked all over it, or, I mean, they didn't treat it like it was a case. They treated it like she wandered off. And then it became this big thing. Was this some conspiracy theory case where it was hiding something else that was going on within the government, or something on a higher level, and people needed to have their attention on something else, so this case came about? Or Nancy Guthrie was just too political in her thoughts or in her statements. Savannah Guthrie was too political in her thoughts and her statements, and they were targeted. I think this is much more personal than that, guys. I've thought that from day one with this case, and I saw that, this was about her family members, but they also are tied into some very powerful people. So this is why it became so big so fast. It wasn't just the fact that she was on the Today Show and she was an anchor. It had to do with um, there were a lot of powerful people surrounding this that had there are other things going on and other deals going on that have nothing to do with this case that they didn't want coming to light because of this case, if that makes sense. Kind of what I'm seeing with this. Is Nancy Guthrie alive? I'll look again. Is Nancy Guthrie alive? Let me take a look. Okay. No. And there was a fight at the end too. So she fought for her life. She didn't go out peacefully. She fought until the last breath. So she fought for her life. Does Savannah know that her mother is dead? Does Savannah know this? Let me take a look. And again, I'm a psychic profiler, so don't come after me. This is what I do. I take a look at cases and see what I see, and this is why I'm brought in. Well, this is interesting. This looks like a new piece of information that is coming forward about this. It looks like Savannah was approached with stepping down on a certain platform about something. She was up on her soapbox saying something. She was asked to stop speaking about it or to remain quiet, to not bring that up again. And, there was an argument, and she was told, do not bring this up again. This is the first time I'm seeing this. This was before any of this happened. I would have to say, if I look at a time frame, this may have been as this may have been back in November, maybe around the end of October. This looks like this is when this threat was delivered to her. And there were a lot of angry words said, and she said, hell no. And she was going to say what she was going to say, and she was not going to whitewash anything she was going to say. But I definitely see she was approached. She was approached to keep quiet about something because it shows something hidden. And it shows that she was bringing too much light. She was shedding too much light on this situation. So I will say that this is new because I haven't said this before with Nancy Guthrie. Interesting. When will we see any type of activity with this case with Nancy Guthrie? When will we see this actually? When will we see this actually coming forward? Some movement in the case where there's a resolution. Well, it is saying a period of 1 month. I do see a deal on the table. Do I see that Tommaso is involved? Yes, I do. And I'm sorry, I've seen this the whole time. I think he was the ringleader. He was the instigator. He was the one that started this. And I just see a lot of bitterness. I see, This was a family level fight that went national and international because of whatever reason. But he's right there, front and center, guys, front and center. I do see a deal coming forward. So I think they have enough on him. I think that's why this is taking so long, because they have enough on him where they're getting him to sort of, be scared enough to make a deal. And the thing is that, he's coming from outside the country with his thoughts, with the way he handles himself. So he doesn't fold that easily when somebody, brings an accusation against him. He's pretty much sticking to his guns. So it just looks like there's something here that is real. This is authentic. I think it involves some other people, some other investigators. I think it is going to uh, unveil and hide where there's going to be an audit of all the cases, and that department will be, uh, they'll be going through that with a fine tooth comb, because so many things were mishandled with so many cases, and people were just lax and lazy and just didn't do their jobs, and everybody was, she'll come back, she'll wander back, and nobody took anything seriously. They just waited. And in the midst of waiting, they didn't know it was a murder case, and nobody told them. It was just the nearest officer that happened to be down the street shows up, takes the call and says, "Oh, yeah, I'm down the street. Let me go see what that is." And nobody knew it was going to grow into this. So I think they're trying to cover up what happened there as far as mishandling the case, mishandling evidence. There's a lot going on there that they need to not have be shown to the public. And as far as any ransom notes and all that, that was just smoke and mirrors, guys. That was nothing. That was a nothing burger. That was nothing. I don't get that had any merit whatsoever, and they're just buying time. That's all that is. But this is about not having light shed on the practices at this department, because nobody really did anything. I mean, they would show up to work, collect a paycheck. Once in a while, they'd drive out and see what was what. But I mean, most of the time, people didn't do their work. They were busy doing other stuff. So that's sad. But that's what I'm seeing with Nancy Guthrie. And if anybody has any questions about their particular case file, don't yell at me, guys, later that I didn't address your case file. I know there were some obscure case files out there that they're like, "Oh, can you look at, who was it, Nolan?" And actually asked me the question, guys. I don't compile a list of questions on cases that don't work. So if you want, I'm offering this. So just come on, request to speak, and then I'll put you on. All right, so I'm opening it up for all other questions about any other case file, old, new, doesn't matter. If you have questions about Bryan Kohberger and what's going on there, and whether or not that's actually going to be a thing. Will his case be retried? Will something happen with that? Send me a request to speak. I'll put you on and we'll take that question. All right, let me look at Bryan Kohberger. Let me just see what's going on with him. Let me just see if, because I've been involved in that since day one, since the day this happened with the Idaho 4. And it's not like I was obsessed, but I am drawn to certain cases on a personal level. So I was drawn to that case. I was drawn to the point where Um, I had to post every day. I mean, this is before I was even really doing podcasts about it. And I was posting my psychic impressions every day on what was happening with that. And then when they finally arrested him, that arrest happened. What was it? November 30th, something, or December 30th. It was the 30th of something. I remember this, and I remembered the day it happened. I was looking at it, and when something flashes in my psychic eye, when something flashes, it means that there are all kinds of problems with it. Like, this is not true, it's not authentic, something's wrong with this. There are incorrect statements being made about this. This is an inaccurate picture. Something's wrong with it. So let me look. Let me look at Bryan Kohberger. He's taking back his guilty plea, or he wants to. And now it's like they have to go through the process of, because there's a certain legal process that happens when they do that. So he knows this. He's had a lot of time to work up his own case file. Let me just see if this thing will have sea legs. Let me see if it will actually gain traction. Will Bryan Kohberger actually be able to be exonerated? Let me look. And again, I'm getting that he has, I'm getting a double yes here. Let me see why, though. Why is Bryan Kohberger going to be exonerated for these murders? And just so you guys know, I don't care what Cy Ray says. I really don't care. That whole thing is all smoke and mirrors to me. I'm just looking here to see why he's. Let me see if they give him another trial, or he has evidence to present that actually makes it impossible that he was at that house at that time. Something. Let me just see what's going on. Or if it was his legal team, they lied to him. They told him, take this plea and then we'll work on it later, and then they didn't work on it. That's something that I do see. I think they made promises they never kept. And I don't think it's because Ann Taylor didn't want to. I think she just got so busy with the case files that, there wasn't time to devote to this. Will Bryan Kohberger ever gain any traction with this new taking back the guilty plea? Let me just see. Bryan Kohberger, what's going on with you? Okay. Well, okay, this is interesting because he tried to, according to this, he tried to sort of do his own defense, or like provide like a great number of articles that would support his case, and they were sort of ignored. It was almost like there were egos involved, where they didn't want to have the person that was accused of this crime helping to win his own case. Like, I just get that there was a problem with, maybe they thought he was arrogant and they didn't like the way he was you know, he was superior to them because of what he knew, or, it was just maybe the tone he used when he was offering, all of this as, look, I couldn't have been there because this, and this, or, then it became all about the cell phone towers and like tracking that. I think the evidence was planted for absolutely sure. I mean, that sheath, I, that was just, I just laughed when I saw that. It was just so wrong. It just didn't belong there in that bed. It was wrong the way it was played. And first of all, it wouldn't have survived like that. I've been to a number of crime scenes. I've seen some horrific things right up close. I have smelled cadavers. I have seen some really horrible, mutilations of human beings. And, I have to go in scientifically and not react to it when I'm going in. And then I have to see what I can see about it. I react to it much later when I'm away from there. And then I have my own little meltdown later. Um, but when I'm working, I'm very clinical. I'll go in, I'll assess the situation. I will not have emotional reactions to something I'm seeing until much later, because I have to be able to just collect the evidence in my head. I have to be able to see what's happening on that crime scene, all the things that my brain can collect in my basket there, and all the details that I can see. So what I normally do is I walk in and I slow time down, and I look around myself in a 360-degree circle, and I look around at so I'm able to remember all the details of that scene just by looking at it. That's why I use regular playing cards when I read, because I am affected by visuals. I can't be looking at someone when I'm reading them. I have to look to the side of you. I cannot look at you. And there's a reason for that, because I get distracted. So remote viewing and me working remotely has always been a thing my entire career. I mean, this isn't something where, oh, she likes to hide. No, it's how I work best. So it's very convenient for police departments, for investigators to contact me to work on these cases, because, I can very conveniently do this over the phone. And it's better if I don't see things. Every once in a while, I will ask to see a certain item, and they'll send me a picture of it. But that's only so that I can confirm in my brain that's what I saw. All right. So let me look at Bryan Kohberger. Will this case reopen? Will he be able to get the case reopened? Okay. Yes, but with some caveats here. This case can be reopened. The problem that they're seeing is that it has been so discussed and so out in the public, and so media compromised, that they don't know what to do with it. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to satisfy the elements of this without having to go to trial. They're trying to satisfy looking at whatever evidence or whatever information that Bryan has coming forward. I get that Bryan, yes, is working with an investigator who is giving their time pro bono, or at cost. Very little money. It's at cost. and his family may be taking care of that bill. And I'm getting that they've come up with some things, some question marks, some snags in this whole ordeal. And again, if law enforcement would just do their job, that's all I'm saying. I mean, am I a fan of law enforcement? Pretty much not, after working with hundreds of departments. And I can say that as sure as I'm sitting here. I am not a fan of how they work. It has nothing to do with what they think about psychics. It has to do with they bring me in, they use my stuff, but I watch their habits and their protocol and how they work and how they assess the situation, and they're very quick to judgment on case files. I've watched this happen before my eyes, and I'm like, but you didn't look at all of it. And they're not very thorough. It's rare that I meet somebody who is very, very thorough. The last time was, and I have to be honest, the last time was on the JonBenét Ramsey case. And I was working with the detective Lou Smith, who has passed away. I was working with him quite often. And, I personally knew him, and I was constantly on the phone with him, and we were looking at JonBenét Ramsey and what was happening there. And the thing is that he knew that I was onto something. He even talked to me about being part of his book. He said, "Can I interview you for my book? Because a lot of what you're seeing is what we already knew, what we discovered." I said, "Yeah." And then unfortunately he passed away. So but I looked at that case, and again, it's like too many egos, too many cooks in the kitchen, too many people deciding something or assuming something. There is no assumption. You make no assumptions when you go in. I don't even make assumptions. A lot of times it disagrees with what I actually think as Carla. Like, I look at it and my psychic self disagrees with what I would say about it. So I know I'm in psychic mode when I'm looking at it because I'm disagreeing with myself, but I have to be true to the readings. So that's what I am. And for better, for worse, that's what it is. So all I'm saying is, some of these cases, why aren't they solving then? People ask me, well, why is it taking so long? Like, if you're so good at what you do, why does it take so long for these to be solved? Like, if you're really psychic, you would have solved this by now. That has nothing to do with it. It has to do with the elements of the case. Usually when they're going to solve, some of the elements aren't there yet. I could have my piece of the puzzle, but all the rest of it isn't there yet. And it's a timeline thing, or it's a group karma thing where other individuals in those circles, some other events have to happen ahead of time before that case solves. That's why it's not an instant thing. Look, we don't learn if something happens that easy, right? Where we learn is where it takes time and effort, and there's like a whole ordeal with solving a case. Then we learn. We learn where we went wrong. We learn where we went right. And we try to make it so that that doesn't happen again. But is there corruption? Yeah, all over the place. It's the world we live in. And can we bypass it? Well, the media has had a lot to do with bypassing that in this generation. the media, ever since I started in this and I started working on crime scenes and missing persons, I noticed that the media played such an integral part in solving cases, because they would just put it out there and it's like, now they have to deal with it. There was no more hiding recordings or hiding tapes or hiding anything anymore. Information was readily available. And it's, yeah, it got a little excessive. We got people on YouTube and TikTok and all the rest of them out there, doing their little things, and that's fine as long as you don't taint it even further. It's okay to have your opinion about what happened, of course, just like I'm having my opinion. My opinion is well seasoned, guys, well seasoned. I've been there on hundreds of crime scenes, and I am not exaggerating, hundreds of crime scenes. So when you can say that and you've been invited by departments to work on those crime scenes, then you come back to me. If you're just promoting your YouTube or your TikTok, then that's okay too, as long as you don't misrepresent what it is you're doing. It's your opinion, and that's fine, and that's great. But don't represent it as fact until it is. I don't either. This is my opinion of what I'm seeing as a psychic. Are we accepted yet? Like, where this is an acceptable thing? Hell no. They hide me all the time. I can't tell you how many cases I've worked where it's a big secret. And I'm talking like some very high profile individuals. And it's a big secret. And I understand that going in, and I have to agree to that. Like, I have to actually give my verbal okay on that and sign off on it, because I'm not allowed to talk about it. So I don't. So I can't say names, and I can't do all that. As open as I am, I can't do that. But, the ones where I'm not sanctioned, I can say whatever I want because I have worked them. I mean, at this point, Bryan Kohberger will have his shot. He just has to be careful not to throw people under the bus that helped him along the way in the beginning. It's not their fault things happen the way that they did. There was corruption, there was a lot of breaking the rules, and that's how that happened. Is the real killer still out there? Let me take a look. In Moscow, let me look again. Is the real killer still alive and well, living in Moscow or the surrounding community? Let me look. Is the real killer still there? Okay. This is indicating that there has been, they're laying low, but let me see if they still live there. Is the killer still living in Moscow or the surrounding area? Let me take a look. Is the killer in the Idaho 4 murders still living there? Is this killer still there? See, I see a worry around this, and I think it has to do with Bryan Kohberger reopening this whole can of worms. I mean, they're just sitting, they're hiding right now. They're hiding right now. They're a little worried about this reopening because Bryan Kohberger knows a whole hell of a lot. Was he the murderer? I don't think so. I never did. Does he know who these people are? I think he has connections to them, yes. So this is the problem with this. It's like transference, you know? And these people are worried that they don't know to what extent he knows what he knows. This is the part, you know, they railroaded him. They got him to take that plea. He took the plea. He listened to his lawyers that said, look, we're going to still work behind the scenes. We're going to give all our time, all our free time to this until we see justice. So I think they made that promise and they didn't realize they weren't going to have time. And so it became excuse after excuse. And so he's a little angry with that situation. And is he weird? Yes, he's weird, but you don't convict somebody on the fact that they're weird. Otherwise, you know, so many more people would be incarcerated right now. All right, so what I'm seeing here is that they're worried, they're laying low. Their disappointment, the disappointment is there with the fact that he's even getting like any traction with this. Like they just thought, throw away the key, that's it. He's done. And apparently not done. I had said from the very beginning that there would be an exoneration there. One day I saw that happening. Let me take a look. Bryan Kohberger, do you have enough evidence to exonerate yourself right now in this crime? Okay. I get yes. And he knows enough to, I think at this point, he has no fear. I think that's why this is working for him because he has no fear. Like he's already lost everything. So why the hell not? And I think when your mindset is like that, you get so much accomplished. And I see this wish coming forward where uh, his knowledge is valuable. His knowledge is worth something in currency, you know? It's worth something because what he's sitting on is pretty much the whole thing. He knows the players. He knows what happened. He's got a very good idea how this came down, that he got twisted up in this whole thing. He knows who threw him under the bus. He knows that whole situation. And this is what they're worried about. Let me look at a time frame for him. And again, if somebody else has another question about another case, any case file, doesn't matter, go ahead and submit a request. Soon, guys, I'll move over to YouTube and we won't have this issue over here. All right, so let me see. Bryan Kohberger. What is the time frame for opening up this can of worms again? Okay. Well, I think they're trying to coach him on professionalism and like, you know, don't be a crybaby and don't, you know, like they're trying to get him to just deliver the facts as is and not um, have his snarky attitude when he's delivering that, you know, like just facts as they are. That's it. Be very sterile with the whole thing and present it. You know, no opinions, no nothing, but this is what you know. These are the facts as you know them. It's indicating October here. So October, November, that time frame where it looks like he's got like a small team of lawyers that are willing to help him. New lawyers that have always believed that he got a raw deal over there and that something happened. And I think because I see it being very small law firm, but they are known for being progressive and aggressive when it comes to criminal trials. So this is kind of what has come into his realm right now, as far as uh, Brian has been approached by these people, by these legal entities, and it looks like a small firm, but it looks like they get the job done. They are trial attorneys. They specialize in criminal, um, almost like malfeasance, like criminal malfeasance is what I'm getting. And this law firm is small, but they're effective. So whoever he has on his team has offered to do this because they have seen from day one, since those four individuals, God help them, were murdered the way they were. It doesn't matter. They were murdered in cold blood. I mean, ever since that happened, they have watched how this trial has gone down, and just they have always known that this was wrong, that the elements of this case were wrong. Am I in the popular side of things that Bryan Kohberger should be convicted and they should throw away the key forever? And no, I'm not in the popular side of things here. And I haven't been, like, when this first happened, that first day that it happened, and I'm posting, about my thoughts. And then when they arrested Bryan Kohberger, and I came out and said, guys, he didn't do it. I remember blocking probably 250 people that day here on Twitter. I was just like blocking people left and right. It became a sport. It was actually my new sport. I was actually, swatting them left and right. And it just became a thing. I'm like, look, guys, this is my opinion. Don't come on here and try to argue with me, because that's not my way. I don't argue case points with people. I see what I see. It's right or it's wrong. And I admit to everything being wrong if I need to. And I don't try to rub it in your face if I am right about it. If I am correct about the case, and someone gets arrested and it happens the way that I had seen it, I'm careful not to get all arrogant about that, because remember, bottom line, people lost their lives for this nonsense, for somebody's ego, for somebody's desires, for somebody's need for power. And we have to remember that that's at the bottom of this whole thing. But yeah, I was unpopular for a minute. And then the other ones that agreed with me, it's like, oh, she only has people on her page that agree with her. No, I just don't allow people to come and attack me on my presence here. Why? It's my presence. And yes, I pay for the blue check mark, but I have a legacy check mark that I received because I was a public figure on October, what was it, October 16th? No, October 9th. October 9th of 2016. And I was legacy verified on that day. And it's because I've done enough stuff that I guess I was a public figure. So it's not because I declared myself a public figure, guys. It's because I was recognized as one with the work I was doing. So yeah, I want to keep my blue check mark here. Why didn't I leave Twitter? Because it's also carrying a lot of influence here, and I was comfortable with this platform, no matter who owned it, and I just made it work for me. So that's why I stayed. Anyway, so if somebody has another question about another case, I don't care what it is. Just put it forward. Now's your chance. Don't yell at me later, guys, that, oh, I didn't see the podcast. I didn't know. And then it's so funny because I'll go over to YouTube and there will be at least 10 questions sitting there in the comments. And the time to do that is right now while I'm doing the live. I will not answer those questions outside the live, guys. I will not start breaking down the case after the lives. I will do this live right in front of you, but I'm not going to sit there and type out answers to your questions, and I get at least 10 to 15 questions like in the comments right away. And I'm like, you need to come to the live and ask them directly. Then I will deal with that. Okay. So let me take one more look at that. Brian Kohberger, will you walk? Will you be exonerated one day for this crime of murdering? Whoa, I dropped 2 cards. Let me see what they are. Hold on. And if I were on YouTube, you would see me with my hands disappearing for a second while I pick up these cards. Hold on. Ah, okay. Interesting. The cards that fell. Brian Kohberger will receive a gift of some sort from somebody that's holding on to either information or a piece of evidence, and they've been holding on to it for this particular reason all this time. All this time. Here it is. He has received this gift. He has been gifted this, like, hey, I've been holding on to this for a long time now, and I was waiting for the right time, and you took steps, and now's the right time. That's what I'm seeing here. Somebody was holding on to this the whole time, that believed the whole time that he was innocent of this crime. And whatever this is, they gifted Brian with it. They had it. Why didn't they give it before? I'm getting that they were threatened, or it was a threatening situation where their hands were tied. They would have either lost their job or something, or lost their lives, for doing so. Like, they had to lay low for a while, but now they can come through in sort of an anonymous mode. And this can be behind the scenes, and they can present this without anyone knowing it was them. That's what I'm seeing happening here. So when cards fall, you see this all the time, right? Like, you go on YouTube, you watch these psychics and these tarot card readers, and like all of a sudden the cards fall out of the deck, and then they have to pay attention to those. And you know what, guys, that's a real thing. It happens all the time to me. Like, if I rarely drop cards, though. That's the thing. I rarely drop them when I'm shuffling. And I'm not one of those shufflers that, like, you'll see when I get on YouTube with my hands, I'm not one of those shufflers that makes my deck bend and I look like I belong in some Vegas casino, dealing blackjack or something. No. I am respectful of my card decks. I have different playing card decks that are very pretty on the outside that I've purchased, and I take care of my stuff. So I don't bend the cards like that. I don't expose them to food or liquid. you know, and I make sure everything is pristine. So I'm telling you right now, something's going to happen with this. And he was gifted this information, or gifted uh, this surprise thing that came out of nowhere, and it's because somebody's been holding on to it for the whole time, and they were afraid to come forward. They didn't know who they could trust, and they were right. They didn't know who they could trust. I mean, in the middle of the trial, there was no way they could come forward, because which side do you trust? Can you even trust the judge, you know? And I just think that that whole thing was tainted from the beginning. And is that the hallmark of what's going on in our country right now and in the legal system? Yes, it is, for the most part. Is there ever any justice ever again? I think so. And I think that's why the media can either hurt or harm. You know, social media, you know, there's a lot of conspiracy crap out there, but sometimes it works because it makes something bubble to the surface. It makes you look at it. It makes you uncover whatever that was. So it works as a catalyst in driving that case forward when there's no movement. So it has its place at certain times. You know, most of the time, I just think that, you know, from what I see here, this is very covert what's happening with his stuff behind the scenes. And I see him being gifted with something while he was in prison, like a document or like a piece of information or like a piece of evidence that they were holding on to the whole time. Maybe it was the actual sheath and not the one that was purchased so that they could plant it. Sorry, but guys, that was planted there. It just was. In my opinion, when I looked at it, my mind was flashing the entire time. When it flashes, that means there's something wrong with that scene. There's something inaccurate, incorrect with that statement or that picture. It was just wrong. I didn't know what was wrong about it at the time, but I just saw it. It kept flashing, like almost like I was having some sort of um, you know, like 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 aneurysm or something. An aneurysm, you know, or like some sort of psychotic event, you know, something was happening where you know, I was having flashes in my head. I'm like, oh my God, that is so not true what I just saw. So I have to step forward and say that I was not a popular person in the beginning when that happened. But now, you know, we're full circle now. And now he's coming out saying he didn't do this. He was forced into that, you know, statement that he was guilty. He was forced into admitting guilt, you know, for the purpose of not being executed. Would I have taken that deal too? Probably. You know, with the way the justice system is, I mean, it's like you got to take the better of two evils. And he knew that he would have time then to work on it behind the scenes, like spend all his days and nights researching and doing the thing. And he was qualified, you know. And I didn't make my mind up about him in 2 seconds. Like I've had some people saying that, like, oh, well, you know, you were just like on the Koberger train. You wanted to date him. That's the other thing. Like people were saying, I wanted to date Brian Kober. I'm like, no, no, I did not. Um, but you know, it's something where if I see something, it generally there's a lot of truth in it when I first see it because I really had no I knew that it was going to be unpopular when I said it. I knew these four beautiful people were dead. and there was nothing I could do about it. And I knew that if I sided with the person they arrested, that I would just be crucified in Twitter and like all the other platforms. And like people just came after me left and right. And you know what? I built up a lot of backbone with that case. I have to say, I appreciate that case because I stuck to my guns. And I still do. So for better, for worse, guys, this is what I'm seeing with this. Something around October, more into early November is what I'm seeing with movement. And maybe this piece of evidence or this gifting that I'm seeing will come to light with Bryan Kohberger. And is he strange? Is he weird? Yes, he is, but he didn't commit this crime. Maybe in the future he'll commit another crime. I don't know. I don't care. I just care about this one. You know, I'm not following his lifestyle until the day he's dead. You know, it's just on this one. He didn't do it, and he became the scapegoat for all of it, in my opinion. And I'm also one of those psychics that don't sit here saying, oh, for entertainment purposes only. First of all, I'm not here to entertain you, so why would I say that? I mean, honestly, why would I ever say for entertainment purposes? I would laugh if I said that. That's not me. It's never been me. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to teach you. I'm here to try and teach as much as I can, to enlighten, to illuminate as much as I can. So that just goes into that. All right, so guys, I am an hour in. Does anyone want to ask a question about any other case that I haven't brought up? Do you want to ask about Luigi at all, or do we not even care about him? Do we want to ask about another case recently in the news, or not in the news? Like it's a case that nobody knows about. Now's your chance to ask. Not after I post it on YouTube. You guys have to really just, I know it's inconvenient recording these on Spaces on Twitter X. I know. That's why I'm moving all of it to the YouTube platform. I promise. But I have to move first to do that. I can't do that in here. Trust me. I've got too much stuff in here. Too much stuff is packed up and, I'm surrounded by it. But I've made my little workspace here, but I'm just not going to turn a camera on it, not in here. But when I feel safe, when I move, I will do so. And probably do my hands in some nice lighting and candles and crystals and seasonal things and like little fairy lights. I don't know. I'm just thinking of all kinds of backdrops for that. Anyway, I will have that set up as soon as I move, I promise. And I'm just going to sign off then, and we'll do another one of these where we do a couple of case files, because I've done just one case at a time. And you know what? It's fine. But when you've got multiple cases going on simultaneously, it's better if we do the potpourri type one. So, if there's enough to do another Nancy Guthrie by itself, if anything major happens with that, I will do another in the Nancy Guthrie series or the Bryan Kohberger series. I will do that by itself. But until that time, we're doing piecemeal. And let me see who's coming on. Janine? Janine? You there? Janine? You have to turn your mic on, hon. Unless there's a problem with the mics tonight, I don't know. She's coming back in. There might be a problem with like people coming in. Janine, I'm just gonna add you just by yourself since you wanted to come in. All right, I added you on my own.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I know I keep losing you. I don't know why.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I was trying to get that other person in here, and I think they tried 3 times and gave up. But I don't know what was going on, but I added you on my own. So that's how I'm going to do it. Just either raise your hand or give
Uh,
me an emoji if you want to
Okay.
speak. If anybody
Okay.
else on here wants to speak, just give me an emoji raising your hand or a high sign, and I will add you on my own here. Okay.
Okay. I have a question about a case. It's in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania,
Mhm.
on West Chew, CHEW Avenue, regarding a father who I think is now deceased. His name is Ray Horsch, Horsch, and a son, Eugene, same last name. And they think that they have had women in there that they have, I guess, decomposed their bodies.
Oh my
And
God.
yes, because there was a woman who said her mother was at that house in 2016, said she was with Ray, the father, and she was okay. And then they never heard from her again. And there's no trace of her. And then there was
So what are
some
they
kind,
doing? Hiding the bodies in the wall?
well, I think they have a 55-gallon tank in the
Oh
basement.
my
And
Lord.
now the Philadelphia police dug up the pipes, and now this week the FBI took over because the son, Eugene, I guess he was having an issue with some girl in the car, and I guess she was younger. He's like, I guess, in his 40s or whatever, but they knew something was wrong. I don't know, somebody reported it. I guess the girl maybe was trying to get away from him. So it looks like they found there was another girl who disappeared in 21 or 2023. They found her ID in their basement,
Oh no.
and yes, and other women's IDs. And then this other thing was, there was writings. Now I don't know if it was the father's writings or the son's writings, but stuff about um, Ted Bundy.
Ah,
So now they
why
like,
is it Pennsylvania is like
I don't
no,
know.
no, no. I mean, in all these cases, it's Pennsylvania. And those are the ones I always get involved in somehow. And I'm from Pennsylvania. So it's so weird. It's like
Um,
I'm from the place where all of
so
this
am I.
treachery is like coming to light. And I just, okay. So this 55-gallon tank, is it closed
Right.
or is it open?
I don't know, but I guess it has like the water supply pumped into it. But I guess they
Is it
think
like a
that they were,
filtration system?
I I don't know because like they're not telling us. But I kind of think there's something weird because there's women that are missing. They find these things, and then they're in the pipes. They've actually taken the
Oh my
pipes. The
god.
FBI now has the pipes. Like they dug up the street and everything. So um, I think they think they're using some kind of chemical agent, maybe
Like a
to
lye or something
I
to
guess
to
because
melt the
right,
okay.
right.
Like, and that
So
takes a while. Not that I know this personally, but I've worked on crime scenes where they've used lye and they've sprinkled it on various dead bodies, and it doesn't happen instantly. So
right,
the more contained the container is, the more it's airtight,
right.
the faster the decomp.
Maybe what the tank is. They put them in the tank.
Yeah, and I get that.
or or
And
this
they
drum,
probably,
55
not
gallons.
to be
Hmm.
gross
No.
or muddy under the water or under the surface with some sort of like uh
Right.
They have something that will anchor them on the bottom instead, so it doesn't
Right.
float up. But there will be oils present, like on the surface. That's the thing. When the body decomposes, it's like making chicken soup. Oh God, nobody will eat chicken soup after I just said that. But anyway,
I know what you mean, though.
it's like
Yeah.
that where you see those oils rising to the surface of the water when it's boiling. Anyway, let me just look to see. All right, I need the guy's name. So have both been arrested?
I think the father is dead now,
Okay.
but his name was Ray, Ray. Last name is Horschch. And now the son is Eugene,
Eugene Horst. Okay, so
Eugene.
they think that this was a father and son activity.
Right.
Why the
Right.
hell are they like, why can't they just play ball like all the rest of America? All right,
I don't know.
let me look. Let me look to see what this is.
Go ahead.
Let me look at Eugene. Let me look at Ray. Let me look at Ray first since he's deceased. Okay. Well, I do see a woman here with Ray where that could have been like the mother even of Eugene. And I see
Okay.
that this person, there was some sort of money issue at the bottom of this decision.
Hmm.
And it looks like there was like she may have owned the property or something. She may have owned the house. She may have been the one that held the money or was the money maker. And I think I'm just seeing her here. So it's interesting. Let me just look to see what happened. Do we know what
Okay.
happened to the wife? Do we know?
I don't know, but that's something I would have to
Because
look into.
I'm seeing her coming up, or the mother of that child. Um, is she still around? See, again, I'm getting a money issue. I'm getting something with taking over money. This indicates inheritance. Hmm.
Hmm.
Almost almost like let me just see. Let me look at the relationship between Ray and this woman. What was this relationship dynamic? What was this? Can't believe they're in Pennsylvania. Of course they are.
I can.
Of course they are.
Hey, somebody chopped up a body in kind of like across my field here. My son heard the
What?
screaming. Yes, and they finally found the body. Like nobody reported
On
it,
your
but
property?
well, not like our property, but like I have a soccer field right at the end of my building here, and it's on the other side
Oh
of
my
this
God.
soccer field. Yes, and my son heard the screaming. He said, "I think somebody's being murdered." And now they found the remains like what 2 years later or
Well,
something. It's
this
really weird.
begs the question, Jean, are you taking care of yourself?
It's like I went out of here.
Do you have security? All right, this is what I'm seeing the relationship between Ray and this woman is. Um, I'm almost getting like almost like a yeah, there's either she threatened to take the son away from him, something like that, where there was a threat issued. and the sun's coming up here, Eugene. So
Okay.
either she was just going to take him and run.
All right.
And let me just see if she's still with us, if she's still alive. Is this woman still alive? This woman that I'm seeing with Ray, the mother of Eugene, is she still alive? Because this may have been where it started. I'm getting this is like a long list of, like, this is serial in nature. Like, this isn't
Right.
just one person.
Yeah.
Let me look. Is this woman still alive? Because I'm seeing him attached to the property then. See, there's the fight. There's the fight. Wow. And let me look at this other guy. Let me see what this was with her. Yeah, there she's no yeah, it's showing she's no longer here. Um she could have even been having an affair, or she had a special friend. Okay. I mean, it looks like somebody else she was talking to, but it caused a fight because they could have been just talking, but it looks like it was causing enough, and then I see the death here. And I'm seeing worry that she would take the son. That's the biggest thing, is that she would have taken that son out of that household, and he would have never seen that son again. And that
So
would have
maybe
been,
that
it
that
was a veiled threat. It was like, and the threat was mentioned so many times that it became a joke. So let me look at Eugene. Let's see what his, let me see if it's like father, like son. Let me just see.
okay.
Is Eugene involved in all the antics with this life of crime? Is Eugene taking after his dad? Oh, yeah. Wow. It was just simple way of disposal. Get rid of your problems, put them in the tank. I mean, honest to God, what is wrong with people?
Oh, I don't know, but there was a woman. I think her name was Amy McHale, MCHALE, and she went missing in 2016, and that's the last place that she was, and she was with Ray. And the daughter is like been searching, for years to figure out what happened to her mom.
Well, number one, first marker that I get is that
Hmm.
this is serial in nature, which means it's happened multiple times. And what I'm
I
getting
think so
is it
too.
happened with, it started with the mother of Eugene.
Eugene,
Somehow
right?
that situation caused whatever psychosis to ignite, and that there was no turning back once that was turned on with him, because it became such a viable uh, solution to his problems, you know. And then he could be with
Right.
other women and do whatever he wanted. I think he had it with the threats and this and that, and I think that he should have just divorced her. But I think that she was in control of the money, of the house, of the holdings. Anything that was responsible, she had in her name, and he moved in, kind of thing.
Okay.
So that would be an interesting thing for you to research, if this is, to go in there and
Yeah.
see. But as far as Eugene, like, I get that there is Eugene knew about it, stumbled upon it one day, and then he was brought into the family business, you know?
Yeah, he's probably fixated on it now.
Well, and I get that he sees that it's an easy way to establish, I almost get the sense I get with these two is that they're very alpha male, like men are superior to women kind of thing, and like just sit your ass down and do what I say kind of person.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I get both of them are like that.
I could see that. I could see that. I know like there was IDs of the one missing girl that they've been looking for. Her ID was in their basement, and
That's
like there's
just
a
101. If you're gonna kill somebody, I mean, honest to God, get rid of the idea, like cut them up. Why hold on to them?
and then there's like I guess people's like credit cards and stuff that maybe they did the same thing too. Maybe he just thinks, I'm going to keep the
Well, let
things
me
so
look
I
to see if
remember them.
let me see if they were kept as sort of trophies of,
Yeah,
you know, because obviously they couldn't use the credit cards, because they would be
right,
so.
right.
So let me just look to see if it was a trophy thing or what it was. Why did they actually keep it?
Hmm.
Let me just look. Well, this is indicating that there may have been some fraud with some of those IDs. You know what I mean? Like they opened up other accounts under those names, you know, and whatever. And when the account was closed, then they moved on to the next one.
Or they could have even forced women
No,
for money.
no,
Do
they
you
were
think?
gone already.
No, they were already
And
gone.
this is where I'm getting Eugene comes in. I get that Eugene was sort of like the expert in this. Like he learned how to do this, on the dark web. Like he learned how to take their IDs and like translate it into, oh, this is other opportunity for us. And they would just open up other accounts
Mm.
with those IDs and use them for as long as they could. And the thing was, it would trace back to the ID and not to them.
Mm.
And I get Eugene here for this. So maybe that was the son's contribution to the whole thing, was he was the money guy, he was the one that was the ID guy, the paper trail, financing the operation by getting money or cash advances or whatever they could get. But I get that Eugene stumbled upon this one day by accident.
Yeah, I was wondering if they found that the handwritten notes, I guess, sensationalizing Ted Bundy. So it was like, was that the father? Was that the son? Maybe it was Eugene. I don't know. They're not going to say yet, but
Well, let
it's
me
just
look at the handwritten notes with the Bundy worship.
crazy.
Let me look to see if it was Ray. Um, I don't think it was Ray. Let me look at Eugene. Was it Eugene? Oh, it was Eugene.
Yeah, I kind of think it was him. I think he did a lot of murdering, you know.
Yeah, it was Eugene.
Hmm.
And he considered himself to be the most alpha of alpha males. I mean, that guy had like an arrogance about him.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. From when like heard about the arrest and everything with what happened, thinks he's powerful and
Yeah, he's
has
not
a
like
mouth.
the quiet type
Mhm.
like Brian Cober. No, he's
No, not at all.
this guy's arrogant, in your face, you know, not quite Luigi Mangione, but arrogant, like he's ready for a bar fight, you know?
Exactly.
Um, wow.
Yeah.
Gene, I
Hmm.
had no idea you were over there in the middle of like murder central. Take care of
Hey.
yourself, all right? God.
I just love. I used to live down in Philadelphia because I went to school down there. I don't know how I survived, but
Where did you go to school?
Right. At Temple,
Oh, okay.
yeah, the dental school there. So I was in the middle of right next to Temple Hospital. That's where I lived, and I could see them taking people in through to the morgue. All the dead bodies in the city.
Wow.
I know,
So
I
so
know.
that's where it began for you.
I guess so. I guess so because it
Where
just
it
was like
began.
and I used to
God.
play with the I used to be able to go to the cadaver lab for Temple Med School at night so I could look up my anatomy stuff.
You know
So I'm
what?
kind of like
I
used
mean,
to
why
the
don't
dead
you
body
get
thing.
like some sonar equipment and just start surveying your property? I mean, I
You
would
know,
just be out there every night, like trying to, you know.
I just was really surprised when my son came to me and said, "I think somebody's being murdered." I never heard a person scream like this. And then I was like, "What?" And I was listening. And I'm like, should I call the police? And I'm like, oh, wait, it's on the other side of the field. I'm sure everybody that lives right there will call. I don't think
You
anybody
know what?
called because
Nobody comes
nope.
forward with that stuff anymore. Like,
No, I was
it's
surprised.
rare that people will help out their neighbors or whatever when something like that is going on. Most people will just pretend it's not happening.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's crazy, because it's like a couple years later and the surveyors came and they found you know, he was chopped up, and they left his backpack and his cigarette
My
case and
God.
everything else there. Yeah, isn't that weird? And I
It
was like,
it's definitely disturbing.
and I live in a nice area,
All I'm saying is
but
it's disturbing there, Gene. So, I'm hoping that you stay safe
I'm getting
over
out.
there. I had no
Just,
idea. I've read for you and done other things. You know what I mean?
mhm,
Like I've had no
yeah,
idea that this was going on, like right in your
yeah.
backyard.
But this stuff, it's weird because, people say, oh, only these things happen in the cities. Well, they happen all over the place now.
Well, I came from a tiny town in Pennsylvania. Let me tell you something. The
Yeah,
reason it must have been ordained or destiny that I was going to work on this type of thing, like missing persons or crime or some sort of thing, because nothing ever happened in our little town, right? And
right.
it was sort of central, let's just say central PA. And
Mhm.
there was an escaped convict who I was 14. And this escaped convict, uh, he he was incarcerated for rape, and I guess raping children.
Oh,
And he had been there for like 8 years or something, and he escaped prison. And he came to our town, and
oh, wow.
I was um, I remember it happened on I was in what, ninth grade, and I was coming out of my high school, and I was with these two girls, and they were in band, with me. And I said, "Oh, hold up, I have to go back and get something because I forgot this piece of music, and I had a piano lesson right after that, right?" So I ran back into the band room. The two girls I was with were abducted at gunpoint 2 minutes after I left them. Walking down, they were cousins, and they were in band with me. They were actually in the color guard, and
Oh, wow.
they were, in my class, and um, they were abducted, and it was Valentine's Day. And I'm not done. They were abducted by gunpoint, and our town had never had something like that happen before, right? Like,
Right.
when I was growing up there, I mean, nothing happened. That's how bored I was. I was just like, oh my God, please make me older now because I can't take it anymore. Like, I remember I was 11 years old and I'm screaming at my mother, please make me older right now. I just can't. I'm going to die of boredom. And I remembered, going through that stage, and then this happened, and I was wishing for any type of boredom after that. Can I talk today? No. So I come back out, and they're already gone, but my dad was there to pick me up. So I just went with him. We didn't know anything happened.
Oh, you just went home. You didn't know
Well,
they
yeah,
were
we didn't
abducted.
know until that night. It was all over the radio. And my mother comes into my bedroom, and I remember this. Like, she comes into my bedroom and she wakes me up and she said, Carla, wake up. And I said, what? Like, she's shaking. She said, I need you to pray. I need you to do your thing where you talk to God or whatever it is you do to make things happen. Like, she made me feel like I was such a freak when I was growing, because apparently every time I concentrated on something, it would happen.
Okay.
So she said, your friends, and I said, I was walking with them outside the band room. I walked with them, and I had to go back. I forgot something. I forgot my music from my piano lesson. And she said, they're missing. They didn't know what happened at that point, because they didn't catch the guy. It wasn't, and it was Valentine's Day, and it was snowing. It
Oh,
started
yeah.
snowing, and it was like, I don't know, 5 feet of snow. Like, it was huge. And I remember, oh, turn your speaker off, or turn your microphone off, Jean. I'm getting feedback
Hold on. You're getting feedback?
from you. Yeah. Or turn it down. Turn your volume all the way down. There you go. Okay. So I remember, like, just going to bed, and in the middle of the night, my mother's coming into my bedroom, and she's like shaking me, Carla, I need you to start praying right now. Talk to God the way that you do. Do your thing. I said, do winning. Like, what happened? She said, 2 of your classmates are missing. And I said, who? And I said, and then I told her, I said, I was walking with them. I said, I walked with them outside the band room. I said, we just finished band, and I was walking out, or they were rehearsing for something, and I was in the rehearsal hall doing something. And she said, they don't know where they are. They're searching right now. And I said, okay. And nothing like that ever happened in my town. Nothing. I mean, this was like the reason my dad moved there to start a family, was because, it was like this small town where you could raise a family. So it was in the woods. We lived in the woods, kind of. And, deer would come right up to our back door. I mean, we were in the woods in this big, huge house. But I remember, okay, so we're glued to the radio all weekend. I remember we spent the entire weekend, we were all just listening to the radio, like, waiting for news on these 2 girls. And, my mother was like crying because I told her that I was almost taken too. Like, thank God I forgot something, and spirit was watching out for me. So okay, fast forward 3 weeks later. I mean, we're talking, it was a huge snowstorm and then another snowstorm. So, like, it was a lot of snow and it was cold and the whole thing. There was a call that came into the police station, and my dad was at the hospital. He was on call that night. He's an anesthesiologist, so he got the call in the middle of the night, and they had to go, and it was the two girls. They were found walking naked on the highway and flagged down a trucker on the highway. And they had no clothes on, and it was in the middle of the snowstorm. So the trucker picked them up and gave them a blanket that was in the back seat and took them right to the hospital. And the police came over and the whole thing. And so my dad was there when this happened. These girls showed up. So so I guess the story was that they were tied to trees in the middle of the woods, naked, in this cold, while it was snowing, no clothing. And the only time he would untie them is when they would eat or they would have to go to the bathroom. But other than that, they would be tied to the trees all night long. So they spent 3 weeks being raped repeatedly on these trees. And how they got away was when he went to go get food the one time, they chewed through the ropes with their teeth and they freed themselves. And they ran to the highway, and the trucker found them. And then they finally caught the guy, like they caught him and they threw him back in prison. And it was a whole thing. And then, my mother took me to the girl's house to, you know, to pay our respects and to just see if she was okay. And I remembered just looking at her, I was in her bedroom with her and she was catatonic. I mean, she was just, and that was the first time I had ever been exposed to something like that but it was weird. Even then, like, I had a temperament that I was very clinical about it. I wasn't super emotional, tearing up or all that. It was more like I was making sure she was good. And, I had that temperament even when I was younger to just survey all the surroundings and everything that was going on with her. And I could tell she didn't process any of it. She was just still in shock. And I think she's probably in shock now. Like, for the rest of their lives, they're in shock. And I found out later that she worked for the state police or something after that. Like, she went into law enforcement after that. But, it was my first brush with anything like that in my life, and I would have been taken with them because I was walking with them. The three of us were walking out of the school together. So it was just kind of like a harbinger of what was to come, I guess. And I ended up, it was just the way that I approached a crime was very analytical even then. Like, I just remembered like looking around her bedroom and looking at all the toys that people brought as gifts and all the stuffed animals, and just looking at her, and she could have cared less about any of that stuff that people were bringing. She just wanted to understand what the hell happened to her. So I remembered sitting there with her, and I was just quiet with her. I was just quiet. I just sat with her. And I didn't ask her questions about it. I didn't say, "Are you okay?" Because obviously she wasn't. And I just sat with her. I didn't even ask her anything. I didn't, I remembered. I just sat there quiet. And I could just tell like it was going to be a long time, if ever, that she would be okay, you know? So, this stuff happens. I actually wrote a blog about it. It's in on my website as an article I wrote. And I wrote a blog about it, but it was kind of, nothing happened in our town until that. Or we didn't know about anything happening, let's put it that way. And this was like statewide news, and it was like a big, it was a manhunt and the whole thing. And I was right up next to it. So I thanked my spirit guides every single day after that, because it could have been me, and my life would have been different. In that one moment, my life could have been very different from what it is now. So, anyway, thought I would tell that personal story about a crime scene. But that's probably, it was probably one of my first big influences on why I ended up doing this type of work. So, um, and how I ended up doing all this and working on crime scenes and starting Psychic Detectives. I did the pilot to that series, and then they held me back for Haunting Evidence. And I coined the term psychic profiler because that's kind of what I did. Like, I wasn't a detective, I was a profiler. I went into the psychological aspects of what was happening. I profiled the scene the way I saw it in my head. So I remembered how I coined that term. I was watching back then, a show was on NBC, I believe, and it was called Profiler. And Ali Walker was the actress, and she was blonde or whatever, and it was just sort of similar. And she was actually psychic, but they weren't calling it that because it was NBC. They couldn't say she was a psychic. So they, this is before it was allowed to be on TV that you were a psychic. And she was a criminal profiler, but she clearly had psychic ability because she would see things in her mind psychically. So I remembered saying, "Oh, she's the profiler and I'm the psychic profiler." And it stuck. And that's what I called myself ever since. So that's kind of how that term actually was coined. And then I saw other people adopting my psychic profiler thing. And, I didn't get mad. I was actually honored that other people wanted to use that same title, because I remembered when I made it up, and I just told you the story about how that came to be. So, so I wasn't just a medium, and I wasn't just a clairvoyant, and I remembered doing Haunting Evidence, and we weren't sure at first. Haunting Evidence was going to be 4 people because this other guy was going to be on with us. He was a writer, he was always writing and whatever, and they thought that he would be good, like a good addition to the team, because he wrote about crime, I guess. And and he went and did the pilot with us, and he physically couldn't get through it. Like, he was sitting on the ground for a while. He said, I'm so exhausted, I can't even, and we knew that he wouldn't make it through a whole series. So they just used the 3 of us. And it was just the 3 after that. So that's how that came to be. And we were in New York, actually, on a crime scene in Central Park. And it was we filmed all night, and it was hot. It was in the middle of summer, so it was so hot, I remember. And it was a whole new idea, a whole new concept, but we were all excited because we knew it was going to be a thing. And, you know, it actually was a show that took off right away. So um, I just I remember how things come to be. I remember the origins of things. I remember how the ancient writings, like, and all that. Like, I remember back to history and the wise ones and the ancients, and history, history has taught us, and patterns and growth and progression and that whole thing, because that plays into where we are now. And most people just think one dimensional. What am I going to do tomorrow? And I'm constantly asking questions. So here we are now, and that sort of gives you a little history on how I came to do what I do, um, and why I was suited, why my temperament was suited for this type of work, because I don't collapse into an emotional, you know, just like I do that later. I always have delayed reactions to things. I'm always very good in the moment, but then I have to go off by myself for a while and decompress, and then I'll come back to it. Um, it's not so much that I have to cry it out, but I have to. Uh, there's a lot of stuff that I am witness to, and when you're on a crime scene, right when it happens, especially, like, you're exposed to dead bodies, you're exposed to a lot of blood, a lot of mutilation, a lot of, just a lot of images are flying at you at one time. And I had to put it somewhere. So I would have to sort of decompress and put it somewhere else away from me, because I knew it would affect me for the rest of my life if I didn't do that. So the worst thing that's ever happened from that is, I developed OCD. So that's the worst thing that's happened from that. And I'm lucky, because it could have been a lot worse than that, especially considering what I had seen and what I had witnessed. And my life has been threatened a few times on some of the high profile cases. Natalee Holloway, I received death threats from prison, from that guy that did it. And he did it through a friend, like somebody that followed me on social media. I think they were on my Facebook at the time, and they were actually pen pals with Joran Vandersloot. And while he was in prison, he was um, not too happy that I identified him. And this was 2 years before he was actually caught for the crime of the other woman. And letters were sent to me through her, and he indicated that he wanted to talk to me, and it was a whole thing. So I had to be careful and isolate myself. So why do I live alone? Why am I all like in here? This is why, guys. You don't understand. This is serious stuff. When I was in Aruba and I was at the hotel, we were at the same Holiday Inn. They were renovating it. And I remember I was behind the Holiday Inn where the beach was, and I was just taking a walk on the beach when we were done. It was like, I don't know, it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And the next day we had to go home. So it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm just taking a walk by myself. And I remembered feeling like someone is watching me the whole time. There were a bunch of people on the Strand there, like a bunch of people, like little tables and whatever, and people were eating or drinking or whatever. But I just remembered feeling like somebody was watching me, and I ran all the way back. I ran a mile all the way back to the hotel because I just felt like very scared. And I've never been scared filming on one of these crime scenes before. But there I felt scared and I ran. So I ran all the way back to the hotel and I locked up my room like a million times and I covered up the little peephole thing and I closed all the curtains. And I remember just like being scared for all the rest of the night until we went to the airport in the morning. So, you think it's just all fun and games. We have cameras on us and like it's fun, it's fabulous. It's us out there filming and being movie stars doing reality series. And let me tell you something, it wasn't, because sometimes they targeted us. We had rifles on us on the beach while we were filming that night with Natalie Holloway on that beach, the beach where she was taken. And their military showed up with their rifles. They were at the perimeter and they said, "Hurry up. You've got 45 minutes to get the hell off our island." They went to our hotel and tried to ransack all our rooms and steal all our stuff. And the hotel manager wouldn't let them in or give them a key and sent them back. Like, that hotel manager was tipped so well by my production team. Two of our two of our two of our camera guys doing B-roll on the island during the day while we were at dinner, they were arrested for filming anything. They were just taking B-roll of the street and the beach, and that's all they were doing. And they got arrested. So they were arrested while we were having dinner. And then we came up with the plan. Okay, we're going to leave tomorrow. Like, we were supposed to stay there a couple more days and draw it out. And they said, no, we have to get this done now and get out of here. So, so it was not an easy shoot, to say the least. It was scary. And then we went to the airport, and I remembered being going through customs in Aruba at the airport, and this charming woman who was from the island, she's speaking to me in her accent, and she said, "Oh my God, it's you!" And I said, and I didn't even have makeup on, so like I'm trying to figure out how she recognized me at all. Because I did my best to be as ugly as possible going through the airport. And because I like to travel incognito and not be myself just because it was safer. And I remembered her saying that. And I was signing autographs at customs for all her and all her friends that worked in the customs area as we went through. And she said, "Can we write to you? And we just love your show." And it was kind of like a nice send off because we had rifles on us the night before. So we had both. We had both of those things happening at the same time. So it was a crazy number of years we did that. I mean, I remembered filming the first two episodes. What was it? 2005. And the series finished airing in 2009. So for those 4 years, we did 27 episodes. We traveled all over the world, and it was just like in Europe, it was a nightmare. Oh my God, it was a nightmare. But Americans traveling, trying to do a crime scene, I mean, they would shut the door on us all the time because I think because we were American. So there was a lot going on that people don't know. And if I ever write a book, I will write that in my book. Chances are I'll write a book at some point, maybe 2 books, maybe 3 books. I don't know. But I'm telling the story now. And I'm talking forever here, guys, and I am so sorry. It's been 2 hours. And you guys are still here. Thank you. I'm just going to sign off now, but we told personal stories tonight. So I hope you guys enjoyed some of that, some behind the scenes stuff. And I will talk to you guys later next week. It's going to be a big week with the eclipse. I'm going to be posting quite a bit about the eclipse coming up on, is it Wednesday? The 12th. So 10, 11, 12. Yes, on Wednesday. So I am going to post all kinds of metaphysical good stuff about that. So you guys are enlightened as to what's going on with that. And if you have comments on any of this, go on my YouTube where this will be as far as commentary. And if you have other case files that you want to talk about, when we do the potpourri podcasts for the crime scenes and for the case files, that's where you can ask me anything, as long as you follow here. And soon enough, I'll be over on YouTube, so we don't have this problem. But I appreciate everybody here. I love you guys, and I will talk to you next time. Have a good night.